I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer, and I just learned about this, and I'm ticked off by it. Because it's just another step in the evolution of censorship. Apparently, the works of Roald Dahl, books like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, The Fantastic Mr. Fox, so on and so on, they are apparently getting altered. They're not being banned, mind you. They're still available for print, but it seems that new editions are being released that remove elements that have been deemed problematic. You know, stuff like use of the word fat, or using the word black to describe the color of a machine. Things like that, things that are really going to cause some major social change here. Yes, this does count as censorship. It is the people in charge of these works taking them and deciding that there are certain elements that are problematic, that don't align with their own sensibility of what is right, and therefore deciding that they need to be altered, having certain terms changed or removed entirely. And they're doing this to works that have existed for years without causing any problems. I suppose the good news is that these books aren't being banned. It seems that the actual banning of works that are deemed offensive may have run its course, because we haven't seen any major bannings in quite a bit as far as I've seen. It seemed like it reached a peak and people were striking back against how pointless it was. And so, rather than continue down that path and keep meeting resistance, they've moved on to something a bit more subversive, a bit more insidious. They're not going to ban stuff, they're going to change it. They're going to make it more acceptable to a modern audience, even though the modern audience they think they're appealing to doesn't freaking exist. The modern audience that actually exists hates this stuff and rejects it because, contrary to what the geniuses behind these moves might think of us, we're not stupid. We know what's going on, and we see this for what it is. Now, there are 2 ways that people might try defending this. Some might say that modern people have the right to alter Roald Dahl's work because Roald Dahl said some pretty controversial things in his lifetime. Particularly, he was known for making some anti-Semitic statements. I'm not about to stand here and tell you that Roald Dahl making those statements was right. Certainly not. Anti-Semitism is something I am greatly against. But I got news for you. If that's the standard you're going to go with, you're going to have to do a lot of alteration to a lot of different works because, well, everybody throughout history has said something controversial at some point, especially if they are in the artistic fields. You can't really get around that. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm not saying you can deny it either. You can't just sweep it under the rug and pretend it never happened. That is a great way to just forget about stuff and have it actually get worse later on rather than better. Another way people might try to justify this is to say that there was an alteration made to one of Roald Dahl's most famous works in his lifetime. The original version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory described the Oompa Loompas as pygmies from Africa. That is what they were. But because of the civil rights movement of the era, that was frowned upon. When the movie came along, the Oompa Loompas were depicted as basically fantasy humanoids, bright orange skin, bright green hair. Can't really tell what they are. Oompa Loompa Land is some mythical place people don't even believe exists. And Roald Dahl, when he released a second edition after the movie's release, altered the text in order to have the Oompa Loompas fit that description. And yes, that was an alteration made, but here's the catch. It's an alteration that was made by Roald Dahl. The original author made a choice, and when he saw how people responded to that choice and how an alternative was better received, he chose to take his work, revise it, and release it again. That was his decision. Since Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was his work, he has the right to do that. Just as much as George Lucas has the right to do whatever he wants to the Star Wars movies, whether or not we like it. These new alterations being made, they're not being made by Roald Dahl. He died years ago. He's not making this choice. Other people are making that choice. And they're making that choice based on the idea that they think they're better than him. It's the sheer hubris of it all that gets to me. And the changes being made are so incredibly pointless. Like, okay, the word fat keeps getting removed from different works to describe certain characters who are fat. But every other descriptor that points towards that character being fat is left in. Not to mention, no effort is made, as far as I've seen, to make the character who is fat less disgusting. So it's not really working towards the body positivity thing you think it's working toward. All you've done is remove one 3-letter word that you didn't like. The terrible tractors in Fantastic Mr. Fox are originally described as black in the older texts. They removed the word black. Why? What do you think these tractors look like exactly? I think of a black tractor, I think of a regular tractor, but this color. I'm not thinking of them as representing people from Africa. This is the goblins are Jewish argument all over again. If that's where your mind goes when you see the word black, that is more of a statement about you than it is about the work you're looking at. Black as a color exists, and it's often used for menacing things because black is a menacing color. This kind of black, specifically, this kind. It represents darkness. It represents mystery. It represents something unknown, yet at the same time threatening. That's what that color represents. They're not describing it as... I'm actually having to explain this concept to adults. Things that children would understand. That's what's dawning on me right now. Or, of course, there's the witches, which decided to change where these witches end up working as roles like secretaries or things like that, which would have been common roles for women to work when the book was written, and changing it to be like scientists and business owners, because, we need more women in STEM and positions of power and things like that. But have we actually forgotten that in doing this, we are assigning these positions of power to the witches, who in those original books are evil creatures that eat children, the villains who need to be stopped, and they're the ones you want in the positions of power? Your attempt at being feminist just fell flat on its face. It's ridiculous. That's all it is. This is pure hubris, pure egotism. It's not helping anything. You are changing it to feed your own egos. That is what you're doing. And in doing so, you are taking a work that was written by a man that a lot of people agree was brilliant. Even with his hang-ups in his private life, they agree that his writing was amazing. And yet, you're coming along and you are making pointless alterations just so you can say that you did a good job, when in reality, you haven't done good at all. All you've done is alter something that did not need altering. And if it did need altering, that was the author's decision to make, not yours. Okay. Getting a little fired up here right now, but maybe that's because I'm an author myself and this hits a little close to home. In conclusion, if you think that this is a good decision, or you're one of the people who was behind this decision, you're wrong. There is no nuance here. You are wrong. I'm not even going to bother signing off this time.
Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books: Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.